Schools are letting out for summer break. Pools are filling up and trips are being taken all over Texas. But accidents can happen anytime. That's why you have your ace in the hole, your right-hand man, the sombrero backing you up with Northwest Insurance Agency. Give us a call today or visit us at nwagencies.com to get covered under the sombrero today.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. Hope you guys are doing well. We are presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency. Mark Villasana, give them a call, 214-352-5656, or email them info@nwagencies.com. As promised, I did want to jump back in time a little bit. While I was in Europe, a lot of things happened. Some roster changes happened. And so I'll kind of hit on some of those big stories. So it might be a little bit of a rehash for those of you who missed some of those things, but also it's a good chance for me to mix in kind of an off-season preview, if that makes sense as well. So we'll kind of go position by position as far as what happened during that time and just take a look at it. And I'll kind of give you some thoughts and then give you some thoughts on what needs to happen for the position over the course of this summer. And then we'll be able to really kind of go from there and full clean slate into Memorial Day, early weekend and all of that and do all of that. So let's jump in right away with the quarterbacks. And everybody was kind of, I would say, even myself, caught off guard by Keldrick Luster entering the transfer portal. That happened while I was over in Europe. He entered the portal right after SMU's spring game. And for Keldrick, and I've been lucky to get some intel and also talk to some folks at Texas State about it. And this is just kind of the hard piece of roster building in college football in this day and age. SMU would have loved to have kept Keldrick Luster on its roster. You can never have enough quarterbacks. Rhett Lashley says that. They've gone out before and gotten an Alex Padilla and done some of those things where you're like, wow, all right, a guy who started a couple games for Iowa is coming in. People immediately kind of say, well, what's going on? Are they not? No, you need depth. You have to have quarterbacks. And so SMU is going to go into this season thin at the position. There's no question about that. But they're also going to be very talented once again at that position. But for Keldrick, he leaves SMU after appearing in 7 games. He completed 3 of 9 passes for 23 yards, added 13 rushes for 62 yards. One of those appearances was against Penn State in this past season. So he did, get that kind of mop-up duty there. But for the most part, it's been like mop-up duty against some other teams that have pulled the starters in most cases, or against some lighter competition when SMU's gotten up big. So this is a good chance for him to go somewhere else and be the guy. He really has that opportunity at Texas State, and I'm happy for him. And SMU's happy for him. And talking with people around the program once I got back, and again, Texas State kind of backed this up as well. And we've got some familiar faces that are over there from the SMU days at Texas State now. And they just said what a great support system SMU was for Keldrick to do this. Instead of having sour grapes, instead of, trying to just money whip them a little bit more to stay, Ty Hawkins had a really good spring and was trending up leaving spring. And so I'm not saying Ty Hawkins would have been the backup quarterback for SMU this fall. There's a chance he could have. I could have seen that being the case. But there was also the reality that Keldrick Luster has the experience, was going into another season for SMU, and was a very safe bet to be the backup quarterback, especially with Tyler Van Dyke's status being what it was or is. And so now you have Keldrick Luster moving on and going into a quarterback battle that I think he can win and probably should win. When I talked with a couple of people, there's kind of that thought that he's going to bring everything that GJ Kinney wants in a quarterback, that ability to throw it and run it. There's some people that in terms of the actual throwing motion of the football this spring, watching those three quarterbacks, will tell you the most natural throwing motion might very well have been Keldrick Luster. He's got an arm. He can do it. I think he can really excel at the group of five level. I think it probably would have been a tall task for him to play at the level that Kevin Jennings played at for most of last season in his future at SMU and in the ACC. But that you never know sometimes until you get out there. We saw that with Kevin Jennings. We kind of shared there was belief that he can do this. There's belief that he can be special. And until he got his real shot in games and as the starter, that wasn't a sure thing. And he took it and ran with it. And then, the rest is history. SMU goes to the ACC championship game and makes the college football playoff. So Keldrick Luster leaves. Tyler Aronson had already gone by that point. By the time I left for Europe, he was gone early in the semester, didn't go through spring with SMU. And now it leaves Kevin Jennings, Tyler Van Dyke, and Ty Hawkins on the roster. And to reset this position for the offseason, for the summer, Kevin Jennings continues to add weight. He's around 190, 195. He looks bigger physically, and that is a good thing. And not to say that, Kevin got hurt against Louisville that one play where Preston Stone came in and tossed a touchdown pass. But he really took some hard hits, and I thought for sure some of them would, knock him out for a minute. And I think there was another moment where he exited the game at some point. But SMU has a star in Kevin Jennings, and he has to clean up his turnovers. That's something that can't really be assessed until the fall. And at the same time, he can just continue to develop consistency, chemistry, timing with his receivers this summer. He's got Link Rhodes coming in. He's got two more freshman receivers in Carterius Brown and Isaiah Robertson coming in to join this wide receiver mix. They added Yamir Knight, and they add back Dylan Goffney into the fold. So now they have a really good, solid, depth-wise and talent-wise group of receivers that things should be able to kind of keep rolling for this offense, and you feel good about that group. I don't want to say you feel great, and we'll touch on them in a little bit, but you feel good about where you stand at the wide receiver position and at quarterback with Kevin Jennings leading the charge. Ty Hawkins needs to add weight. There's a good chance that early in the season, he will have to be the backup to Kevin Jennings. And it would not shock me. It would not shock me. And maybe I'll eat my words here, maybe not. But if Ty Hawkins did not see action against Missouri State, and neither did a Tyler Van Dyke, maybe it is Charlie Pfizer who gets into the game, because you got to preserve the red shirt of Ty Hawkins as best you can. And at the same time, you almost need to play, and this is just me talking, I'm kind of hashing this out in my mind, I guess. You need to get it to a point where, okay, are you sure Tyler Van Dyke can go in? If so, yes, he can play in 4 games. Ty Hawkins, you don't want to burn a red shirt over games that he didn't necessarily need to go in. Kevin Jennings, hand the ball off if SMU's up 45 to whatever against Missouri State. Don't need to call pass plays. Don't need to get him hurt. You can get out of there and go back home. Then you face Baylor. SMU will have to play a little strategery for how to redshirt Ty Hawkins and how to redshirt Tyler Van Dyke. Because for Tyler Van Dyke this summer, it's about getting his knee as healthy as possible. He was out there for spring ball, kind of watching. He was not out there doing really anything with the team. And so that tells me he's still a little bit of ways away from being cleared in a sense. Like, they do not want him to get medically cleared and then them roll him out in a blowout game to get him some time, and then it kind of bite them in the rear if they burned a game for no reason for Tyler Van Dyke, in my opinion. So, and I've kind of gone into the season now, so I'm trying not to do that. But really, this quarterback room is thin, but each of them has things that they need to work on to be ready for the season. And Kevin just has to continue to develop with his receivers and do all those things. Ty Hawkins needs to add weight, continue to pick up the playbook. Tyler Van Dyke needs to get healthy. Boom, offseason checklist. You're in good shape there. Before we move on to the other positions, I do want to remind you guys about our friend Andy Ludicky at My Perfect Franchise. MyPerfectFranchise.net. Was having a conversation with a friend of mine, getting together at all these kids' birthday parties that we're a part of now. And we go through and we do all that. And he said, man, I think I'm kind of on the verge of pulling the trigger and maybe doing like a franchise or getting into that business opportunity world. And I said, well, you watch the podcast. We've got Andy Ludicky, 404-973-9901. We can give you all the information to get set up with Andy Ludicky, and you can email him, Andy, A-N-D-Y, at myperfectfranchise.net to reach out to him today and see what franchise opportunity might work for you. And if it is an opportunity that you find and Andy Ludicky hooks it up for you, he'll donate money back to SMU's NIL collective, the Boulevard Collective. And so that's a great opportunity to help SMU if you get into the franchise business, thanks to Andy Ludicky. So talk about your options with him. He's friends with the Hooters down there in Alabama and an SMU family. So excited for him to get up to a game at some point and spend more time around him and to show him the Boulevard, of course. So reach out to My Perfect Franchise today. Again, 404-973-9901. The running back position was one where there wasn't too much that happened. Let me see. When did TJ Harden commit to SMU? He committed in mid-April, right before I left for Europe. So that didn't happen. So we really don't have to hit anything on the running back room. We knew that Jalen Knighton. We knew that LJ Johnson. We knew that Kamar Wheaton were all going to move on. And the interesting thing about LJ Johnson is that he did flip his commitment from Rice to Cal. So he's going to end up being in the ACC and will play SMU over Thanksgiving weekend. So I hope the best for LJ. He's a great dude. He just needed a bigger role. And so I don't blame him at all for going that route and also doing it at a Power 4 level. You get probably some better monetary situation. But this summer for the running back room, you're looking at a running back room that welcomes Jermichael Green to campus. TJ Harden is not going to be in until late this summer, from what I understand. So he's going to be somebody that's going to have to step in quickly and really get the ball rolling on the playbook and just kind of getting settled in really quickly. And so that'll be his goal. And he brings a little bit of everything to the table. I think bigger back. That's a good opportunity for him to fill that role. And then you have, the returning guys in Derek McFall, and then Chris Johnson Jr., who went through spring with the program. So those guys are already, with it when it comes to the playbook and all of those things. But Jermichael Green, getting him up to date on all of that is so important, because he's going to have to get some carries this fall as well, again, as a bigger back, and he'll get that chance to do that. So the running back room is fairly straightforward. It's not too crazy as far as what the guys need to do. I think, if anything, you want Chris Johnson Jr. and Derek McFall to maybe just add a couple pounds, for the weight of the season and go from there. But yeah, getting Jermichael Green up to speed, getting him ready to go will be paramount. And you'll look to, that leadership group that is already on campus to make that happen. And so that's the most important thing that we'll see this summer from those guys, is how they help get him ready to roll. So that is the running back room. There really, again, wasn't much that went on over the course of my time in Europe there, but we will continue rolling on with the tight end room. And again, didn't really see too much happen while we were gone. But the big thing, I guess, was, you're going to have RJ Maryland continuing to be on the road to recovery. He's expected to be ready to go for this season. I do think they're going to be careful with him in fall camp. They can't get him hurt. They can't set him back, but that's kind of normal coming off of an ACL. They can do so much now in terms of conditioning, in terms of, the recovery pools, that 2 brand new ones that SMU has in the Weber End Zone complex. They have zero gravity type of things. They can work him out. So he's going to be in pretty good shape when it comes to getting ready for fall camp. And then it'll be on the coaching staff to kind of ramp him up into that, 100% snap count in practice and that 100% snap count in games. So the good thing is for SMU is they do have Matthew Hibner, who is expected to be fine. I think he had some sort of minor-ish injury thing that they just wanted to be careful with, so they shut him down for spring, but he's going to be good to go. And he's you got to be feeling really good about your 1A, 1B. And they're both very, I would say, very, very different tight ends in terms of, what they like to do and what the coaching staff likes to do with them. But this summer for both of them is just getting in the best shape and health-wise possible. Same with Stoney Eby, who is ready to roll as the H-back once again. And then you have, a group of younger tight ends, Adam Moore, Trip Reardon, and they'll welcome Devin Martin and Miles Uter into the room this summer. So Trip Reardon and Adam Moore are now on their 3rd years, crazy, on the SMU roster. And for Trip, they just want to keep developing him. Love to see him get a bigger role on special teams. And same goes with Adam Moore, be a key special teamer, get some snaps, for tight end, to kind of spell RJ Maryland during this time where he kind of, the coaching staff, they have all these different ways to track these guys and make sure that they're being worked the right way and they're not overworked or they're not pushing it and things like that. And all of those things are opportunities for Adam Moore to kind of, to emerge as an option overall for this team. And Adam Moore had a really good spring. And I think we're going to see him potentially carve out a role for himself. Again, had a really good spring, guys. I mean, he was out there running around looking the part. He's always been a player that, carried his weight well and has really emerged into this tight end that I really think could be scary if given a bigger opportunity, but you also don't want him to have a bigger opportunity because you have RJ Maryland and Matthew Hibner. So for Adam Moore, for Trip Reardon, just getting ready for whatever role they have. And for Devin Martin, Miles Uter, getting settled in quickly and learning the playbook. I would imagine Miles is somebody that probably redshirts. He'll be joining a team that has probably the best tight end room in the ACC. So patience on his part, but he'll be, happy to be on the roster with his brother Graham Uter, who's just coming off a redshirt freshman, or is coming off his true freshman season, now a redshirt freshman. So tight end room is looking like $1 million, and that's good news for SMU fans as they look forward to that room. Do want to remind you guys again about our friends at Status Jet as we roll on the Pony Express podcast presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency. Status Jet is a huge part of our podcast family. We appreciate David Henry and his team. I was just talking with a subscriber who ran into David Henry, and guess what? They are ready to rock and roll for a private jet trip with him and his friends to Clemson. So getting the planning underway is critical. Again, they'll get that discount when mentioning on the Pony Express on the round trip flight. So that's a huge deal for them, and they're excited about it. So looking forward to many, many more success stories with Status Jet and them taking care of SMU fans. So reach out to them today. Go to statusjet.com for more info. We go to the wide receivers now, and this is another group that you look at it, and a couple of things happened while I was away, I think, in terms of the timing. I think I have this right. But Jamarian Carroll entered the transfer portal for SMU, I guess, right before I ended up leaving. And it was one of those deals where I just think they were in the world of roster limits and all those things. SMU kind of had to make a move there, and they did. And so he is going to end up going somewhere else. And I hope the best for him. I don't know where he's going. I don't think that has happened yet. But he is he's going to get picked up somewhere, I would think. And so he'll have a chance to go play somewhere else and find a spot and do all of those things. And he's got a whole career ahead of him, so he can make it happen and really take that next step in his career. So looking forward to seeing where Jamarian ends up. But SMU was kind of in a position where they needed to go out and they needed to address the wide receiver position. I think that was a position that they really wanted. And in this day and age of you're managing a salary cap, you're managing rev share, SMU really wanted Randy Reese and Jackson Lavender to grab the position and really, leave them no doubt as far as if they could do it. And I don't think that happened. And so that's where, they went out and got Ymir Knight from James Madison. He picked SMU over Cal and Texas Tech. He's got 2 years of eligibility left too, which is a big deal. He finished 2024 with 53 catches, 605 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he's going to come in right away and compete at the slot position and also probably be the punt returner. The 21 punts for 173 yards during the 2024 season. So really nice, smart pickup, smart kid. And I know SMU's excited about this one. So a big pickup there for SMU and Ymir Knight. So he'll get to campus this summer, get locked in on learning the playbook. That's what he has to do. We know that. And he's a smart kid. He'll pick it up. And then you look ahead, and Jordan Hudson's coming off a great spring. So keep it up. Romello Brinson's gotten back on the field and is really locked in. So again, keep it up. Dylan Goffney, get settled back in to your friendly confines of SMU and get to work with Kevin Jennings. That's the cool part for him. They really know each other well. Kevin was a big advocate for him in terms of getting him back into this room, and it's worked out in a big way. And there's a lot that some of these guys can do. I think Jackson Lavender still has a shot to make some noise at some point and put together something where he can, get some snaps to the slot and go from there. But Link Rhodes is coming in, and he's going to have a chance to play all over the football field. I mean, you have Jordan Hudson and Romello Brinson, and they really like Jalen Cooper and Dalen Singleton. And you bring back Dylan Goffney, as he's had some good moments at Colorado State. You've got Ymir Knight in the slot. Link Rhodes has to learn this playbook and learn it quick. And the better off he does at that, the better chance he's going to have to make an instant impact, which sometimes these junior college wide receivers need a full year to get acclimated and to get settled in. And so there is that part of it for Link Rhodes. And then you welcome in Isaiah Robertson and Carterius Brown. Carterius Brown is going to have to add weight. I just don't see him contributing this year. He's pretty thin. Isaiah Robertson is a pretty thickly built wide receiver. I don't necessarily think he'll break through the rotation right now, but I think he's going to come in and maybe find a way on special teams. And truthfully, with his experience to play all over, he played some linebacker. Right? He can kind of do it all. That could be a fun position for him to get his feet wet and learn the speed of the college game. So again, you're just going to have to see him really kind of settle into that position and being okay with doing whatever it takes. And that's the biggest thing for him is being okay with that. And I'm sure he will be. The staff, does a good job of letting people know where they're kind of headed as far as their early career track at SMU. And so they do have, plans for all those guys to get on the field at some point in the future, but for some, it might take a little bit longer. When you look at the offensive line room for SMU, it's a room that I feel a lot better about. And I know it's getting some love nationally about the guys that they brought in. And that's a good thing. That's obviously what you want and all of those things. But SMU has a lot more like X factors in this room going into the season that could totally reshape how this room looks at the end of the year. Because for me, my starting five right off the bat is Savion Byrd, Logan Parr, Addison Nichols, Josh Bates, and PJ Williams. PJ Williams had a tremendous spring. All those guys, they got to keep doing what they're doing. I mean, plain and simple. Be as ready to go physically as you can be. Get everything down. For Addison and Josh, like they're still, probably picking up little pieces of the playbook, but they look great in the spring. Especially, I thought Addison Nichols was unbelievable. But then you get into the what's next this summer for a lot of these guys. Well, Zion Nelson, the former starter at Miami, man, just get healthy. Like, give yourself a chance if you can with his knees to get on the field and give it a go. Because if he does, he has a chance to really be special. And the staff believes that. They're very high on him. They saw him do that up close and personal at Miami. And that's kind of the track that they're hoping, comes together. And if it does, then who knows what happens with the offensive line room and who plays where and all of those things. And then you get to add in a Dramad Odoms this summer, who arrives with tons of accolades as a highly touted prospect, highly ranked prospect. And then you get to add in Abel Hoopy, who they're very excited about. And if he, comes in and is ready to go, he can really kind of push some things at the right guard position and maybe even give Logan Parr a break, here and there. He's not going to overtake Logan Parr. Let me be very clear. But those are all little pieces of things that for SMU are so important with how fast they go tempo-wise. So for Dramad Odoms, for Abel Hoopy coming in, they have Drew Hill, who enrolled early. Man, get in shape, be ready to go, because who knows when your name is called, when your number is called. And they have depth guys. They have Alex Woods. They have Paris Patterson. They have King Large. They have Graham Uter. They have Nate Anderson, of course, who, has a little bit of nasty in him. And they have Andrew Chamblee as well. And Andrew Chamblee, for him this summer, keep packing on the weight, man. Like, look at what you did this spring. You look totally different out there. You look more physically developed. You look like you were a grown man at times out there. And that's really exciting for SMU because, last year he got injured the third day of camp or whatever it was. And I think he got a bad rap in a sense because, man, here was this all SEC freshman. He was, let's be honest, he was probably a pretty penny NIL wise. And they were really hoping for him to come in and start. And it just, when these big guys get hurt, it's very difficult to make it happen. So for him, keep adding weight, keep getting stronger. His trajectory is really starting to speed up a little bit here, because if you look at next year, Savion Byrd's gone. Let's say Zion Nelson plays some this year. He's probably gone. And who knows, if PJ Williams has the year that he can very well have, he might be an early entry to the draft. And so that could be big for Garen Justice's track record of development as well. But Andrew Chamblee could very well break into this starting lineup somehow, some way, if they need to move pieces around. I don't know what that'll look like. I really don't. If they'll come up in fall camp and have some other guys moved around, I don't know. But right now he had been working on the right side of that offensive line at the offensive tackle spot. So, and that's behind PJ Williams, and he was as good as you could get this spring. I really thought, in terms of rank, if I had to rank the players 1 to 85 or 105, man, PJ Williams probably was the number one player overall. I mean, unless I'm really missing someone obvious, PJ Williams was that good this spring. So lot of offensive line development that continues to need to happen. They have a nice group of younger offensive linemen that are staying patient. Alex Woods, Paris Patterson, King Large is still young, Graham Uter. Josh Bates is still a redshirt sophomore, so he's got 3 years left as well. So a lot of pieces here, a lot of leadership back on that offensive line, and I think they're poised to really take a step forward this fall as SMU gets that group on the field, and you got to feel pretty good about it overall. So there wasn't much that happened with that position either while I was gone, so I don't think I missed anything there. Do also want to remind you guys about our friends at Rusty Taco. Rusty Taco is the place to go for your free corn fritters when you use the code ponyexpress. Make sure you use it. This deal will run out at the end of May. We ran it during the school year. And so make sure you head over to Rusty Taco and that Greenville Avenue location today and use that code ponyexpress, whether it be online or in store, for free corn fritters with any order. We move over to the defensive side of the ball, and Scott Simon's group is really facing a time here where and I think Rhett Lashley and his staff on the offensive side kind of went through this a little bit last year, because I said when Kevin Jennings got in there, I said, this is going to be a player that changes the way SMU looks on certain things. You know, you look at some of the RPO, you look at some of the and I know I said RPO right there, but like some of those plays where, you know, Kevin does his own read, is running into the flat, you know, parallel line of scrimmage, and it looks like he's going to turn up and keep it, and then boom, there's that pop pass. There's those little subtle differences in this offense that developed when Kevin Jennings took over at quarterback that were there. That those opportunities were there for SMU when they were in practice with him, and he got to show them on the field, and it changed the way their offense was, and the commitment to the run game was also able to change. This year for Scott Simons is going to be very interesting to see how he changes without what I would say is a dominant defensive line. And we saw all the depth, all the talent, all the speed, all the different packages SMU could throw at you with the defensive line last year. And it allowed Kobe Wilson, Ahmad Walker, Alex Kilgore to absolutely eat at linebacker. And it allowed the secondary that, quite frankly, at times wasn't as good as it needed to be in pass coverage, especially at the corner position, to get bailed out because either the defensive line got pressure or they got tackles for loss, and teams were facing third and long situations. And there were moments where the secondary didn't have to be as good as it needed to be. This year, the secondary is going to need to be pretty good, in my opinion. And I think they are going to be better than they were last year. And that says a lot, because you lost CJ Sanders, you lost Jonathan McGill, you lost Brandon Crosley. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot to lose. That's a lot of swag. That's a lot of physicality. That's a lot of smarts. But they also bring a lot of that back. And they've added some to the secondary as well. And I'm starting all of that not to go right into the secondary, because you know me, I kind of worked down my depth chart of sorts. So we're going right to the defensive line. But because of the defensive line right now, in particular in the middle, Scott Simons and the pieces they did add while I was in France, they will have some very interesting differences as far as maybe, I think, how they attack, how they build personnel packages. And I'll say that one of the biggest additions to SMU came while I was in Europe, and Keviante Spears from Memphis, a former starter for the Tigers, big, like body in the middle. That's what they needed, because they have Jeffrey Emba, who's a special freak talent. They have Terry Webb, who's probably being slept on, but a lot of people think he can go to the NFL. They needed that big plug in the middle. They added him. They added William Spencer from Louisville. And those guys have the size that SMU really needed. Gone is Eric Taylor. He spent a spring at SMU. It wasn't working out. Out the door. You know, that was kind of surprising, but not really. And I think we've talked about that already. But Kevin Allen's development in the spring was big. He made a big push. And so when you look ahead to this summer, now that you've added those two pieces along the interior, you feel a little bit better about it, because Jonathan Jefferson's out probably for the whole year. Maybe can come back for postseason play. Maybe. But he's probably out for the year. What SMU did was they went out and got Akil Washington from South Alabama. Again, while I was in Europe. And the thing with Akil is he's got that familiarity with Scott Simons, played for him in the past. And he played for 38 games across 4 seasons. This past year, He played in all 13 games for USA. Had to do it. 10 starts, 41 tackles, 6 tackles for loss. A really strong addition here that can be so versatile. He could play linebacker. He could play bandit. He could maybe even play a little bit inside just for fun on third downs. If SMU wanted to go straight, pass rush, cheetah package, whatever you want to call it these days, they can really move him around and have some fun with him. And the same goes for Trey Wilson. Trey Wilson, the Baylor transfer who already went through spring, he needs, if we're looking ahead to this summer now, to add some weight so he can play up and down the defensive line. I don't think he's going to play bandit. Could probably play a little bit of bandit, but I think he's probably going to end up being a strong side edge. And then you can move him inside here and there on passing downs. So they didn't necessarily get, at least as of now, they didn't necessarily get that big, massive, like former blue chip defensive tackle to come in like a Tank Booker last year. But they did get somebody who's played at the group of 5 level and played rather well as a big plug in Kiavante Spencer. So they did that. They checked that box. That's a big box to check. And William Spencer, there's a lot of buzz around him. There's some things to like about him. And he's going to have 3 years of eligibility coming for SMU. And he was highly sought after. And he's kind of raw because he's moved over from the interior of the offensive line to the defensive line. And this is a huge chance for him to really emerge and be a pivotal piece. And why SMU was so good on the defensive line last year, they hit on a guy like Tank Booker who bought in and said, I'm going to revitalize my career. And I'm in a great place to do it. And William Spencer, Kiavante Spears, if they buy in this summer, look out. The defensive line could be very good again. I think the edges are terrific. You look at the edges of this defense, Isaiah Smith, Cam Robertson, Trey Wilson, Billy Walton, DJ Warner, Akil Washington. It's going to be pretty fun. It's going to be pretty fun for SMU this year. And, we'll see kind of what comes from a Jalen Shivers. Can Braden Flowers put it together, for SMU and go from there. That'll be one to watch as well. Just see kind of how he develops and if he can, take that next step because, they need depth. But and actually now that so they have a lot of options at edge that can create a lot of different opportunities for players on the defensive line to, I think, make their defense a little bit more unpredictable. And so all of that, when it comes to the defensive line, means some of these guys are going to have to learn multiple spots. But, man, I would just say, Trey Wilson, he just has to add some more weight. Most of these guys are veterans, been around. They want to get Jamarje Lewis healthy. He can contribute if he's healthy. Blake Burris is still around. Kevin Allen, keep doing your thing. DJ Warner helped to probably add some weight. He's got so much speed. I think he's got a chance to contribute early. And even with the amount of talent that's in front of him in that room, he's got a shot. So the defensive line probably, if I'm picking an X factor as a whole on this defense, I think it's got to be the defensive line. And, oh, by the way, as I went back in time now, Ja'Kai Lang committed to SMU the day I left. The Missouri Tiger transfer has 3 years of eligibility remaining himself. And he was highly sought after. And he redshirted his first season in Missouri and then played in 12 games this year, made 13 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 3 sacks in 2024. So I totally forgot about him and him jumping into the boat right when I left. But he'll have a big opportunity to get into the room and make a name for himself. So SMU did a terrific job of finding players that will not only help them this year, but can help them in the future. And I think that's so big looking at what they've been able to do from a roster perspective. So my X factor on this team is the defensive line, and in particular the interior of it. And if they find a way to be as good, which is, I think about it, guys, it's a really tall task for that group to be as good as they were last year, and especially with Jonathan Jefferson being lost for as long as he is. But it's just going to look different. And so how does Scott Simons address that position as a whole and find a way to, make some moves as far as personnel goes that really keep people guessing? I think he could very well have a ton of fun. And the biggest piece of all of this is you've got to feel pretty good about SMU having its entire coaching staff back to allow things like this to happen too. So something to certainly keep an eye on. There is the defensive line and how they move guys around and do all of those things. But it's going to be a lot of fun to watch in my opinion. And they will, it'll be fun to see it all come together. So that is the defensive line. Really just love what Calvin Thibodeau continues to do year in, year out with that group. So it's kind of like, what are they going to do next? It's always a fun question to ask. Do you want to remind you guys as well about our friends at the Thomas Auto Group? Thomas Auto Group, go up 75 McKinney. I was actually on their site last night, and I got to text Brandon. I'm starting to. Everybody always has the itch, right? But my Jeep is over 200,000 miles. I've got to get basically a ton of work done on it, and I'm kind of like, all right, I think it's getting close to forcing my hand here. So I've been on the site, super easy to navigate. The Thomas Auto Group, thomasautogroup.com. Go through their entire lineup of new and pre-owned vehicles, whether it be Ford, Subaru, Volkswagen dealerships that you want to go check out in person up 75 McKinney. Their staff is great. They'll help you out. And you get employee pricing when you mention on the ponyexpress.com. So that's new or pre-owned vehicles. You pay what they pay. That's a pretty good deal. So I'm probably going to be right there with hopefully some of you guys at ontheponyexpress.com checking out some vehicles at Thomas Auto Group here pretty soon and making a move into something new ahead of football season, because I just don't know how much longer the Jeep is going to hold up and if it's worth putting more money into. So great thing about the Thomas Auto Group, they're SMU owned, so they're going to help you out and make sure they help you make the best decision for you that they can work with you on. So appreciate all their support for the On the Pony Express podcast as well. All right, we go to the back seven or the back six of this defense, or however you want to, put it all together, depending on what packages. And we look at the linebackers, and Maurice Crum has a group that I think is a story of great patience and an opportunity for two players to really emerge this year into huge roles for SMU. And I'm talking about Alex Kilgore and Brandon Maiazono. And this summer, both just have to continue to put on weight, continue to just be as ready as they can. For Brandon, he's battled some health, he plays the game so hard. He broke his elbow or broke his arm or whatever he broke last year and ended up coming back late in the season with that whole kind of contraption on his arm. But, as kind of the guy with the loose screw, he's about ready to break through, I think, and find a way into a bigger role this season for SMU. Alex Kilgore is kind of the household name that we've been on since high school, really talking him up. He's going to have a really, really, really strong year if he stays healthy. And, all of these guys that we've talked about previously had opportunities to go elsewhere, and they stayed, and including Maurice Crum. I think that's a piece where he was kind of one of those coaches on the staff that I think had some opportunities. He was able to stay. And that just speaks again to the culture. And for Brandon Maiazono too, SMU brought in Zakai Barker, who's going to be a beast. I mean, he really is going to be that next group of five, undersized linebacker from Georgia who comes into this program and I think has success. And if you have those three rolling, you're going to be in great shape. Justin Medlock is a good depth piece. He can really cover well. That's a big piece of his game that I was talking with a source about. You need to continue to get development out of Brandon Booker. Brandon Booker needs to probably put on some more weight. I just think that would help him a lot and could allow him to play more and help him just overall. Marky Akor coming in, he looks kind of ready-made, but is already going to probably be at best a special teamer with the depth and talent that they have at linebacker ahead of him this year. And then he'll be ready to roll into a bigger role in 26. But the wild card here is Kyle Firm. And he kind of battled, some health things and wasn't able to go through spring. Now cleared, ready to go from what I understand. And I don't want to get into it too much beyond that because, it's his deal. At some point, I would imagine it is talked about, but he is good to go. And that is a big deal because physically he's a good looking kid. He is still developing as a player, but he has the athletic traits that you want. He's got a lot of skills that I think are really underrated in the grand scheme of things. And so that'll be something to watch here with Kyle Firm. He's kind of probably your wild card of that position group and just kind of see how it goes. But all of those guys, for the most part, just need to keep on in the weight room. And for some of those guys, keep picking up things with the playbook. One thing that did happen, I don't know if I maybe left right when it happened or not, but you did see Zach Smith leave the program. He is going to go somewhere and end up, getting an opportunity to play a bigger role. And I think just he's going to Western Kentucky. So that great for Zach Smith. I think that's a great spot for him. And he'll get a chance to, just chart a new course. But that was kind of the only thing that I think really happened while I was gone. But, it really is, kind of tough. Again, part of the roster building thing this day and age with NIL and rev share is sometimes, smaller schools can make it a little bit more advantageous to get them on the field early and pay them a little bit. I don't know the particulars, but that's kind of the general theme of a lot of some of these depth pieces moving on at times has been that. So best of luck to Zach. That was kind of the only departure, I think, but overall, a room that, loses a really, really good football player in Kobe Wilson and Ahmad Walker. And at the same time, they have guys that are ready to write their own legacy. And I think that's kind of underrated. So before we wrap up on the position by position deal, and I'll talk special teams as well, do want to do one more shout out to our friend Mark Villasana, Northwest Insurance Agency. Give him a call today and let him go through all the options with you on the insurance front and how he can help you out. And he'll also talk a little SMU football with you, of course.
Running a business is unpredictable, but with the right insurance, you can face the unexpected with confidence. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we protect what matters most: your people, your property, and your future. Whether it's liability, property, or workers' comp, we tailor coverage to fit your business needs. Because when you're covered, you can focus on what really matters: growing your business. Call us today for a free quote at 1-855-887-5656 or visit us at nwagencies.com. Northwest Insurance Agency, protection that works as hard as you do.
That's right. So appreciate Mark Villasana, his staff. They're great. Looking forward to many, many more times on the podcast mentioning him and all they do for us at the On the Pony Express podcast. We go to the secondary, and this is a position group that I think this summer, the cornerbacks in particular, they really have a chance to shock the world kind of deal, right? Like SMU cornerback wise, man, like since Brandon Stevens, since a healthy Jordan Wyatt, Richard Crawford, Sterling Moore, I mean, it's been an adventure at times having talented corners. And part of that is, defensive line has not been what it needed to be at SMU in the past. And we know that. And so those guys are out there having to guard gazelles for 5-6 seconds or something, it's different. But this is a cornerback group that needed Deuce Harmon to have a good spring, and he did. And he's got to have a really good summer because this is his final year. This is his money year. This is the chance for him to make plays and be settled in. He's in the culture. He's in the playbook. He knows what he needs to do. He knows the expectations. Be a leader this summer. Be a leader with Jalen Davis Robinson, who is, I think, doing all the right things for SMU right now. And, combine that with Marcellus Barnes, who is getting healthy and will be a really strong contributor for SMU. And you've got three right there that you feel really good about. The departure while I was gone, I believe, maybe it happened right before, but AJ Davis did depart the program. Of course, AJ went through kind of that medical scare during one of the games where he was carted off and all those things. And he is moving on from the program. I forgot to mention Randy Reese also moved on the wide receiver position when I was talking about them, but that happened while I was gone as well. But AJ Davis, moves on from SMU, and again, just kind of one of those where like you were hoping to see it all come together for him at some point, but it just didn't. And so it's really it's just kind of one of those things where it sucks because corner is a position where you can get thin really quickly. And that's why it's so important for these guys this summer to have good summers, to be as healthy as they can be. And then Ricky Hunley can manage their snaps, manage their reps, and do all of those things. And it's a really good opportunity for them to have some of these younger guys like Zay Gentry in particular. I think he's somebody that, as a true freshman could be a wild card true freshman to get into the rotation. You have Speedy Nettles back, who's a redshirt freshman. Javion Holiday, I think, might need a redshirt. I think he just needs to add more size. But overall, you have a pretty steady group at corner. And you've got Lamadrick Spencer, who can maybe play a couple different spots, and you can kind of go from there and figure it out. So pretty good cornerback group that will have a chance to be much improved if they all stay healthy. And Deuce Harmon at times last year, especially early, struggled. Jalen Davis Robinson at times last year, especially early, struggled. I think by the end of the season, we were seeing them kind of start to turn the corner. And there were moments that, they struggled. And I mean, that's just what happened. But I think adding Marcellus Barnes is so important. I think that is a really big piece. And if he's healthy, you're looking at a trio in particular that I think we know you can get a lot out of. And so those guys just really this summer have to be as healthy as you can. And then the quote unquote bottom three, Speedy Nettles, Javion Holiday, Zay Gentry, just in terms of experience, not necessarily the depth chart, but I do kind of think they have work to do to rise up. Those guys have to add weight. They have to be able to, get ready physically and just kind of keep their development going, because it's hard in college football to really, go through it. So when you look at the safety room, this is the position that I'm really excited about from a top end talent perspective. You look at Ahmad Moses and Isaiah Wacobia and don't change a thing you're doing. Just be the leaders, be the guys that everybody leans on, like everybody expects you to be, and you have been for the last couple of years. These are two of the best safeties in the country, and in particular, two that don't get talked about enough. They make so many plays. They fix so many things. They're fearless. They're good in coverage. They just are really, really talented. And so those two be the leaders for what is a group that has seen a lot of change and new faces. I mean, Lamadrick Spencer could play nickel. That's kind of what I'm expecting there. Kyron Chambers as well. So Ahmad Moses, Isaiah Wacobia, lead those two. Lead Abdul Muhammad. Jaden Milner-Jones they're hoping to have healthy back, ready for camp. Jalen Moses is a prospect that I think needed, obviously, that redshirt year, but is developing and looking good. He made some plays in the spring. And then you have a bunch of freshman safeties coming in who you're, again, got to be your leader for. The one I want to single out, Tyron Polley, probably has the biggest chance out of that group to step into not a starting role, but to step into a role as a true freshman. I just think he's wired the right way. He was here in the spring. He's physically going to be even more improved after the summer. just a really, really good football player, I think, who's going to have one of the brightest futures out of this entire 2025 class. So really interested to see how that back end pans out. But they have two studs at that safety spot in Ahmad Moses and Isaiah Wacobia. So a lot of good stuff at that safety position and the secondary as a whole. Colin Rogers is back as the kicker. Got to be more consistent on kickoffs. Morgan Trebet is your deep snapper who was brought in this summer. Wade McSparran is your punter after Jackson Waller departed and Isaac Pearson was out of eligibility. So that is the punting situation for SMU. I don't think they maybe have gotten a punter commit to come in. I think I saw that, but not sure. I know it was something that, let me see. I think there might have been one, but I can't find it right now. Either way, they'll have to come in and, just compete right away and hope to push Wade McSparran, who's the punter for SMU. So it is going to be interesting to see who grabs the kick return spot. I think punt returner is going to be pretty settled with Ymir Knight overall, but as a whole, it is going to be probably the running backs that make the most sense at that kick return position. Guys like Chris Johnson Jr., Derek McFall, players like that. So overall, there's your kind of rundown on all the things that I missed while I was gone, while also some kind of setting the goals for the offseason. So what a podcast, an hour long. So hope it helps you guys get through your week. We appreciate all you guys who have listened to the On the Pony Express podcast presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency, Status Jet, Thomas Auto Group, Rusty Taco, My Perfect Franchise, the whole crew over there. So we appreciate all of them and all of you for listening. So head over to ontheponyexpress.com, subscribe for just $1 today. We'll catch you next time. We'll talk a lot more recruiting on the next one as SMU starts to gear up for a run of official visits this summer. So appreciate you guys listening to me, and we'll catch you guys next time on the podcast.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody.
Follow us on your socials on X at SMU on 3 and on Instagram at on3SMU.
And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.